Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, due to changes brought in recent years, we have a disconnect between your department, which has responsibility for credit union policy, and the Central Bank, which has responsibility for regulation, but no remit to appreciate their voluntary-led democratic organisation. The Programme for Government commits to reviewing credit union policy framework. I want to ask you, when will this review be complete, and when will the much-needed reforms be in place to support community banking?
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle, and I propose to take question number 12, 42 and 67 together. The Programme for Government includes a number of commitments in relation to the credit union sector that the Government is progressing. The review of policy framework is now at an advanced stage. Since September 2020, the Department has held extensive engagement with credit union representative bodies to seek their feedback. During June and July of this year, I met with 10 credit union stakeholders, including representative bodies, collaborative ventures, service providers, the Credit Union Advisory Committee and the Registrar of Credit Unions to gather further information to help inform the next steps of the review. In terms of supporting and enabling the sector to grow and expand, the following are some of the recent developments in relation to lending and investment regulations, SME lending, access to finance for retrofit, additional services and investment in approved housing bodies. These developments highlight the potential of the sector to fulfil a role in relation to community banking. So, the review of lending and investment regulations, the Central Bank has in recent years completed reviews of both the lending and investment frameworks. Following the introduction of new lending regulations in 2020, credit unions now have a combined capacity to provide up to approximately 1.1 billion in additional SME and mortgage loans, with further lending capacity available to credit unions who can comply with certain conditions or on approval to the Central Bank. As at June 2021, credit unions have a combined mortgage and SME loan book of 372 million, an increase of 18% in the previous year. The revised investment regulations took effect in March 2018, and under these regulations, credit unions are permitted to place their surplus funds that have not been lent to members in a range of investments, including Tier 3 approved housing bodies for social and affordable housing. I'm particularly pleased to share with the Deputy that in the past week we have announced that 2 credit union-backed funds have received approval from the Central Bank. Credit unions will be able to invest up to €900 million in these regulated funds, which will subsequently lend to approved housing bodies. This will provide an additional funding channels for approved housing bodies who have a large role to play in the recently announced Housing for All Action Plan. And I want to make clear to people that these 2 new funds, each of the new funds are open to every credit union in Ireland to invest in the fund, which then will lend to the approved housing bodies. And this has only been cleared in the last week or so. It took quite some months for that process to go through the Central Bank because it was a new process and they're now there. And I want to emphasise the fact that this funding that was the regulator gave approval for last week is in addition to everything that was in the Housing for All policy announced in recent weeks, because it has only got a regulatory approval in the last number of days. So this is in addition to what was already announced in the Housing for All. In relation to SME lending, 19 credit unions supported by the League of Credit Unions, CUDA and Metamo were approved in early 2001 by the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment for participation in the COVID-19 Credit Guarantee Scheme. Further developments of SME lending in a controlled manner could also assist credit unions in growing and diversifying their loan book. SME lending has grown by 5.6% year on year up to the end of June of this year. And the Government significantly increased the funding available to support retrofit in Budget 2021. My officials have been engaging with the Department of Environment and the Department of Public Expenditure and Sustainable Energy Ireland to support credit unions participating in these schemes. And you may wish to note that additional services regime set out in 2016, credit unions can seek approval now to offer additional services such as current account and debit cards. 60 credit unions have been approved to provide member personal current account services, and a further group of credit unions have recently begun distributing insurance products to their members.
Deputy Kearns, we have just a minute remaining, please.
Credit unions play an essential role in so many communities. You know, you're guaranteed to meet a staff member, not be directed to a machine, and I think we can't underestimate the importance of that in terms of accessibility. Credit unions have also provided flexible services to people, to families who would have been refused by any other financial organisation. Personally, I wouldn't have been able to do a master's if it weren't for my local credit union in Skibbereen. But the current financial regulations fail to appreciate their community function as cooperatives and the importance of common bond. Instead, they have excessive limits on their services and therefore their potential. So they're particularly limited on business and mortgage lending. Concentration limits in the 2019 regulatory requirements put artificial and business limits in place on how much credit unions can lend for these purposes. So Minister, I'm wondering if you can remove these. Credit unions should be monitored through supervisory and reporting tools, not by legislative barriers. Will I be able to come back in again after the...
No, the time is up. You've just a minute.
I suppose you mentioned some of the engagements you had. I'd ask you to prioritise engaging with the Credit Union CEO Forum and the ILCU in addition to them. And I suppose finally, just if I may, on this particular issue, it would feel wrong not to mention Donal O'Driscoll. He was CEO of the Access Credit Union in West Cork, and he passed away last week. He was a kind and thoughtful man who embodied the principles of the credit union movement, and his loss is deeply felt by his family and everyone in the community.
Okay, thank you. No, Minister, I'm sorry we're out of time.
Out of time.
My apologies.